Hi, good morning. This is Tribeca New Music. I'm Maya, and I'm here with one of the members of the Bergamot Quartet who will be performing in our concert on September 8th at the Domena Center. Do you want to introduce yourself and talk a little bit about the quartet?
I would love to. Yeah, my name is Ledah Finck. I play violin with Bergamot. The other members are Sarah on violin, Amy on viola, and Irene on cello. We're super excited about this program with the Tribeca New Music Festival. Um, it'll be our first time playing on the series, and we're extremely pumped, especially because we get to share um, Charlie's piece, Arcade, which we commissioned from him a couple of years ago. Um, Bergamot primarily plays contemporary classical music. We collaborate with people across a wide range of genres. We formed about 5 years ago when we were in school together at the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore and have been going strong ever since. We all moved to New York in the last 3 years or so. And we're super excited about what we're doing. We commission a lot of pieces. As I mentioned, we collaborate with a lot of different people. Um, I'm lucky enough to get to write music for the quartet from time to time. And yeah, it's the thing that we're the most excited about.
That's amazing. I mean, it's super exciting to see such like collaborative efforts because a lot of the time I feel like classical music has been given to me in a way that the composer is very separate. And so to collaborate is really great. And I know that Charlie told me how amazing it was to work with you guys. How was that process, especially with Arcade?
Yeah. So Charlie was one of the winners of our first, and so far only, but we hope to do more, call for scores a couple of years ago. Um, he was really a unanimous decision on the parts of the four of us. We loved his music. And he told us he wanted to write a very high energy piece for us. We were like, great. We need more of that in our lives. Um, and at that point onward, it was basically we didn't meet Charlie in person until a little later in the process. He was sending us drafts of scores. We went back and forth a number of times. Um, and it's really cool to get to have a personal relationship with the composer because we would get to try stuff. You would tell him like this works great, or this like would work even better if you did this, just kind of to get to talk about really nitpicky things about our instruments, and work with Charlie to create the strongest version of this piece that he was conceptualizing. So it came together over a period of several months, I would say. And since then, we've performed it a number of times. It's really fun. It's a really intense piece. We always find that the hardest thing about it is kind of working up the stamina to play it. It's the kind of piece we always want to put last on a program because it's just like fireworks the whole way through. Um, but Charlie is a really wonderful person to work with. He's really thoughtful. He's very thorough. Um, we're working with him on another piece now, and it's exciting to get to re-enter this process with him, having gotten to know him through that process a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I know that that Arcade is very technically challenging because there's so much harmonic change as well as just like rhythm and speed. It's really fast. How do you think like you've connected your classical training to attacking new work with new things that you may not find in more traditional pieces?
Hmm. Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think that a lot of the music that we play isn't necessarily recognizable as classical music. And there's always this question of what is new music that kind of means something different to everyone. Um, I think for the four of us, our main relationship to classical technique is that it gave us the relationships that we each have with our instruments, and that's something that we're all deeply grateful for. I mean, we got to devote our lives to studying these instruments, so we have a very profound relationship with them, and that gives us access to a certain way of playing that also allows the four of us to communicate together in a very specific musical way. So we try to bring that um, kind of craft to everything we play, even if it's not something that is like more recognizably in the classical genre. For Charlie's piece in particular, I think we really rely on our classical technique to execute it just because it's so many fast notes. Um, and probably one of the biggest challenges for us four together in putting the piece together is just coordination of technique. Because there's so much precision, there's a lot of tempo changes. We're working on intonation as notes are flying by. It's just a lot for us to wrap our heads around. Um, yeah, the kind of classical training that we each received on our instruments, I think, is a really big part of that. But it's also helped us all become better musicians in its own right, just because um it's a different thing from the, the standards that you grew up learning as a classically trained strings player. And Charlie has worked with us to push boundaries in terms of texture, in terms of just how quickly we're switching between things. It almost feels like kind of an obstacle course that you're trying to go through as fast as possible playing this piece, but it's really exhilarating.
Well, also because in everything that you're describing, there's a lot of trust involved, I think. And
Definitely.
it's cool to see chamber music as not only a labor of technique and for the forwarding of music, but also as a way as musicians to connect together and collaborate, which is really cool to see. Absolutely. I know that I've on your website, you've collaborated with so many people. I was really excited to see your visual album. And I just wanted to know sort of how you as a group got into the process of deciding that collaborative art and multimedia was something that you wanted to pursue.
Well, I think that the thing the four of us share is just really a deep desire to kind of experience everything we can with the art that we have access to being able to create. And it's very personally fulfilling to find as many links as we can between what we have access to just with our own training and our own backgrounds, and what other people from all sorts of different backgrounds have access to, and what can come about when we combine those things. It's very humbling and also inspiring to not know exactly what a collaboration is going to be. That's why we do it, I think. Um, and there's also an element, I think, of just the downside of a classical training, I think, is that it can be kind of limiting artistically when you become so focused on technique. So for all of us, I think it was a very just nourishing, soul nourishing thing to start to just help each other to redefine what music making was in the context of coming out of conservatory. So multimedia collaborations is definitely a part of that, and definitely something that we want to continue to be a increasingly large part of what we do. So yeah, and it's also, I think, creates more ways for art to be accessible to a greater diversity of people.
Yeah. I moved to New York when I was 12 and I had never played any modern music before, and I got involved in a program, Only Living Composers, and it really changed my entire worldview, not only musically, but completely about what's possible. So I love that thing about what you said about limits. Like, it's really wonderful to see that there's more than what's given to us in a more traditional setting. Speaking of traditional, how do you guys feel as a women-led ensemble, as non-men, non-cis men? How has it felt for you? Do you think the industry is changing? How do you feel when you navigate this industry, especially with modern music and a large amount of male composers? How do you focus on giving priority to music by women?
Yeah, that's a really big question for us. And in a way, I think we started out as kind of lucky to find ourselves in a position where we were like, oh, this is just kind of already happening. I think a big part of that was because we started Bergamot Quartet with the express goal of focusing on modern music, 20th and 21st century music. And of course, there's a lot more music available that's written by women when you're prioritizing works that are from the 21st century. So a lot of the repertoire we just kind of found ourselves being asked to play was by women. But it also pretty quickly became apparent that we would have to really like make an effort to have our seasons as a whole reflect. Basically, our goal is we want there to be equity in our programming. We want to see our priority has never been to only program music by women, but we want to see as much music programmed at least as music by men. So we just want to see equity amongst gender representation. And so that's kind of how we look at it, is across our season, are we really giving voice to a wide array of composers? So we can't just kind of, fall back on the classics, because that would almost invariably mean that we're only playing music by men. Yeah, and I do think that, we we didn't set out to start a quartet that was women led, but it happened. The four of us, were the people that found each other and had a shared passion. I'm very, very grateful that the other three members of Bergamot are the women that I'm working with, because they're all really incredible people. And we often do get, it's a question we get asked a lot, like, what's it like to be an all female ensemble? I think for us, we consider it less as something we kind of want to make a point of, and more as something we want to normalize, because we do look at other ensembles around us, and it's definitely still not as common to find an ensemble that's all women. It's much more common to find an ensemble that's all men. So we want it to be something that's normalized. We want to be a role model to younger musicians who are interested in starting a chamber music group. And we kind of just want to keep doing that without making compromises. I don't know.
Oh yeah, no, I asked you a tough question because it's also like, why can't it just not be a question at all? Oh, you're an all women
Right.
led. Like,
That's kind of our goal, is to, to see
yeah,
them get to a place where it's not like, oh, they're an all woman ensemble.
yeah, like it should just be, oh, Bergamot Quartet, that's it. How did you guys come up with Bergamot, may I ask?
Yeah, that was pretty early on in our playing together. We kind of just tossed around words we liked.
Yeah.
And that one just felt good. It was it's the name of a plant,
Yeah.
which I think is important kind of symbolism for us. We're part of this like very actively growing and sort of breathing, living art form, which in the context of where we're coming from, I think does set us apart from a number of classical musicians, and that we're pursuing something that is actively changing versus reliving the past. It's also the plant that Earl Grey tea comes from,
Yeah.
which is nice. I don't know, I've always loved about the word bergamot that it's a very kind of multi-sensory experience. It's a color as well. The bergamot plant produces a fruit that looks like an orange, but it's green.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that it kind of tickles different senses. Just the
Yeah. It
word.
shows all of the intersectional art that you guys create. It's the melding of all things, which is that's really cool that it has so many meanings and
I'm looking for candle and tea sponsorships.
I know, like Harney and Sons, Barney and Sons, is that the one?
Yeah,
Classic British one. They
exactly.
should sponsor you. Come on now.
Yeah, because it's also a pretty classic scent for like, botanical perfumes and stuff like that. Well, citrusy.
Yeah. So along those lines, I think another thing that I've sort of noticed, and I don't, as an amateur musician, is the need in the music world to be more well-rounded or be a citizen of the world, have many different feet in different places. What is some advice that you could give to up-and-coming composers and musicians who want to build their career? How do you make a living doing this? That kind of advice is always appreciated for us.
Yeah. Another big question. I think for Bergamot specifically, the thing that has made our project together not only sustainable, but kind of actively a source of joy, is the ethos that's at the forefront of it for all of us is very much kind of a family mindset. Like, no matter what is happening, no matter how we're all feeling, our understanding is that the four of us are committing to what we're committing to together, because we believe in each other as people, and in what we're able to create together, and what we're able to communicate with each other and to others through our collective. So just kind of honoring that understanding as a baseline, that has made our ensemble a thing that has longevity and room for a lot of joy in it. I know that's kind of abstract, but basically trying to continually have conversations that center that ethos, rather than kind of trying to figure out like what's our career pathway, or like what's I think that kind of positive mindset, it guides the way for everything else, because it can be really hard to have conversations about like, how is this going to make money? How is this going to be sustainable financially? How do we fit into the communities that we're trying to work alongside?
Right.
and it can be really competitive too. Yeah, I think really just keeping that ethic of like, we're doing this because we want to explore and because we want to share things. That makes it like emotionally possible to proceed in a
Yeah,
healthy way.
absolutely. We definitely get, oh no, not the alarm. We definitely get caught up in, the general specifics of how do I survive in New York City, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's mindset is everything. So
Yeah.
that is great
There's really no
advice.
clear pathway. It's really just follow your inspirations and follow your heart. Like treat the other artists you work with and the people around you in general, um, with the respect that we all want to cultivate, I think. And from
Absolutely.
then, like things can kind of make sense from there.
Yeah.
There's always going to be challenges, but you'll have a kind of guiding principle.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. Um,
Yeah.
so what are you performing alongside Arcade at our September 8th concert?
Yeah, so it's a program I'm really excited about. We're also playing a piece by Aleksandra Vrebalov, who we got to know this summer at the Creative Music Institute of Arts, Letters, and Numbers. We are playing her piece, My Desert, My Rose, which was commissioned by Kronos Quartet as part of their 50 for the Future project, which if you don't know this project, I highly recommend checking it out if you're a strings player. There's the scores are free. The website also includes notes, performance notes, interviews with the composer, anything you could want to begin to really meaningfully engage with the piece. And there's all sorts of different pieces that are part of this project, but this is a really fun piece, My Desert, My Rose by Aleksandra Vrebalov. We're also playing a piece by Anna Roberts-Gevalt called After Leicester. This is a really special piece, especially to me since I grew up as an Appalachian fiddler. Anna is a fiddler herself, and this piece really came out of a tune that she learned from a West Virginia fiddler named Lester McCumber. Um, my kind of concept of what she did with this piece is that she took the tune and kind of expanded it into its own little kind of universe where hints of the piece are wafting through. You get the melody kind of in fragments, and then there's these. It's a very nostalgic kind of memory evoking piece. We're playing Caroline Shaw's piece, Plan and Elevation, which is very fun. We love Caroline's music, and we kind of program a Caroline Shaw piece every season. We're working our way through. She
I
has so
love
many
her.
songs.
So
So
great.
that's a gorgeous piece. And we're playing a piece of mine that I wrote earlier this year. It's called Quilting Song. That's been fun. It's the first piece I wrote for Bergamot specifically in a little while, so that's been exciting
Wonderful. Yeah.
for that.
Nicky's premiere.
Yes, of course. So this is a brand new piece for us. Nicky Sohn, who's a wonderful composer based in Texas, wrote us a piece called Fortunes Unfolded, and it's based on tarot cards. So this will be the premiere of this work. And it's really fun. I think it pairs well with Charlie's piece also. Um, so yeah, very wide-ranging but exciting program.
Awesome. Thank you. And last question, what are you listening to right now and why?
Oh
Playlist.
man.
I
My
know.
obsession has been with Balkan music.
Oh, so
I've
cool.
been like exclusively listening to Balkan music, which um covers a pretty wide region of countries in
Yeah.
the Eastern Europe kind of area of the world. Um, there's such a cool violin tradition in that
Hmm.
music. Just a style of phrasing and ornamentation that is really um fascinating to me and also really hard to execute given my training as a classical and like old time fiddle player. So I've been really enjoying getting to know that music and studying a little bit of it. Like my Spotify liked songs from the last 2 months are all Balkan tunes.
Oh my gosh. You'll probably be in the top 1%. Or I don't know.
Yeah. And it's kind of coincided nicely with Alexandra's piece actually, because Alexandra is Serbian and there's some of the rhythms and melodies in her work um kind of come out of that sound. That was fun to find that intersection.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. My name's Amaya. This was Tribeca New Music, and you can come see the Bergamot Quartet on September 8th at the Domena Center at 7:30.